It's honestly a bit surprising that Battlefield 2042 is dropping information and confirming things right before major announcements at EA Play. But it's also kind of awesome we're getting clarification in response to speculation videos out there on YouTube. Good job, community managers! Let's dive into more things to know about Battlefield 2042 and what's been just confirmed in an extensive DICE blog post about Robot Dog, the Call-in tablet, and penguins, just to scratch the surface. As always, if you want to hear more about Battlefield coming real soon, give us the old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Let's get to it. Everyone gets a launcher. We kinda knew that already, but what's new is that launchers are now in the equipment slot. So players will have to choose between either carrying a rocket launcher or a medic crate. More on that in a sec. DICE is balancing potentially everybody having a rocket launcher by tweaking their stats, like the ease of use, range, and damage. But man, are we really gonna have to see if this is balanced. Much later in that blog post, they hinted that there would be counters to these rockets. The quote was something like, "or how you stop the enemy from destroying too many of your team's tanks," which sounds a lot like the game will either bring back ordnance intercepting gadgets like the MP APS, or maybe implement active tank protection systems. I can't imagine vehicles surviving very long without significant counters on the field. And honestly, there's going to be a lot of launchers in play because the choice between a support item and a launcher isn't really much of a choice. Why would you take a support item and then run across a tank and have absolutely nothing you can do about it? Plus, let's be honest, most players don't pay attention or have much emotional attachment to tickets in Conquest. So they're just going to take the death respawn when they run out of ammo. We're really going to have to test this out in beta. Could be rad, or it could be kind of a mess. Traditional class items for all. More than one of you pointed out in the comments after the reveal that we didn't see any medical or supply crates on the ground. It turns out that they are in the game. Players can customize primary weapons, equipment, secondary weapons, and throwables. Most notable is that under the equipment slot, now anybody can carry a medical crate or a supply crate. That's a pretty massive change from previous class-specific roles in Battlefield, and shows that even though specialists generally do fall under that traditional class system, that system's reliance on people picking the right class at the right time for the right situation seems kind of diminished. Will specialists be visually confusing? It looks like squads are limited to 4 players, but there's no limit to the types of specialists they can take with them. You might have a full stack team of Falks, who's the medic, and then run around and encounter an enemy team doing the same strategy. This is reminiscent of the old revive trains in previous Battlefield games where teams of medics would just keep reviving each other, and now that any specialist can pick any weapon, that might be an even more dominant strategy. It also might just get confusing with so many specialists that look exactly the same running around. In the blog post, DICE appears to be banking on skins making the players look vastly different. But it's also clear they haven't fully figured this out yet and are experimenting with friend-foe recognition using traditional icons and other options. Just that one person gets the wingsuit. From previous trailers, it seems very much like the featured specialist listed as Sundance was the only person with a wingsuit, and later in developer interviews, they seem to confirm that. But now we have it in writing. There's only one specialist with this ability. It seems like a pretty big advantage for Sundance, who can chase down tornadoes and use them to jet far distances across the map. Even more useful on maps that don't have tall buildings. And I guess everybody else just has to deal with a parachute. Building interiors are not that extensive, which could be good or bad. Battlefield 2042 looks like it has some fantastic city maps, such as Kaleidoscope in South Korea and Hourglass in Doha. Those buildings will mostly just be used to get up high though, and pretty much consist of a lobby and a rooftop. You can get to the top by way of elevators and zip lines. The justification for lack of interior floors is to prevent distractions from the rest of the map, which could be fair and reasonable, but it could also be more fun to have objectives inside of buildings. Some other maps will have those interiors, like the Colossus ship on Discarded. If this is a good design decision or not really depends on how maps use those skyscrapers, and if lots of players do what they normally do, which is grab a sniper rifle, head to the top, and snipe. Now that's a lot of fun, but not very productive. Inside objectives reduce the incentive for players to do that. Expanded out of bounds. An issue with skyscrapers in the past is how many rooftops were out of bounds. The next posting has more to do with jets and vehicles, but it's a good sign that the out of bounds area of maps have been pushed further out. That means more room to roam for vehicles and jets, but also players. The vehicle call-in system. We finally got clarification on when players will be able to call in vehicles. Players were trying to figure this out since the reveal and see if it was tied to a point system like more recent Battlefield games or to capturing objectives. The answer is that all players can call in vehicle drops based on a specific budget assigned to their team, which changes based on the map and the mode. Once you use this ability, there's a cooldown to prevent you from spamming it. So it sounds like there's a system in place to limit your team from calling in all tanks, for example, based on how much each one costs. But if I were a betting man, you'll probably be able to call in smaller transport vehicles most of the time so you don't get stranded. Unfortunately, this section also drops some bad news. Direct spawning from the deploy screen into vehicles and air assets is back. I don't know many older Battlefield players who like this system because we want the runways, man. It's just so immersion breaking to spawn into vehicles directly, and also undermines the value of capturing objectives like an airfield. Maybe newer Battlefield players like this? I don't know. How do you feel about it? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, back to good news. The vehicle call-in system includes Robot Dog. So many people wanted to know more about the Robot Dog from the trailer, and if it was tied to Boris, the specialist most like the classic engineer. The answer is that the Robot Dog's name is Ranger, and it's tied to the call-in tablet. Ranger can therefore be dropped in by anyone, but not at any time. That's limited by team points, as mentioned earlier. Ranger seems to be autonomous and follows the player until issued orders to scout a location, return to you, or follow. Ranger will also sacrifice its life for you. It can apparently self-destruct. The Robot Dog falls under the light unit category and goes down easily, but it's confirmed that you can also use it as Jeep stuff. You monster. Alright, lightning round on random vehicle info. There wasn't a lot more here on vehicles, but one thing the post confirmed is that factions will have their own vehicles, and there are some shared in between them. But at this time, there are no naval maps. How AI soldiers really work. We now have more detail on how AI soldiers will operate. It sounds like they'll try to blend in and do many of the same things you're gonna do, like calling in vehicles, capping objectives, throwing grenades, and reviving you. Unlike players, they cannot be specialists or use specialist abilities, like the wingsuit. In Conquest and Breakthrough, there's a cap on how many AI soldiers can be on a map at a time. Generally fewer than the number of human players that are also there. But that can change apparently when a match is filling up or is nearly empty. One specific example cited in the post is that if there's a match that's 120 versus 128, 8 bots will join one side to balance the teams. You cannot opt out of bots in matches, and even in solo mode, you'll still be online with bots. Cross everything is confirmed. Battlefield 2042 is working on cross-platform play and will have testing going on later this summer. The game will also have cross-save between different consoles like Xbox and PlayStation, as well as PC, which is amazing. And finally, penguins have been confirmed on the Breakaway Map. It's great, I have nothing more to say about this. You do not have to wait long for Battlefield 2042 announcements. EA Play Live on July 22nd is already teasing something new from Ripple Effect, formerly Dice LA, and we already know 2042 will have the not Battle Royale mode called Hazard Zone, as well as remastered fan favorite maps from previous games. Damn Van Peak, please? For more Battlefield 2042 news, head on over to GameSpot's YouTube page. Thanks for watching.
Stop! Watch out!